Welcome back to another video, and today we got our Week 6 Power 40 college basketball rankings, and we're doing these every single Monday, so that is what you can expect moving forward. Along with this, we do college football top 25 rankings every Tuesday, NFL weekly picks every Wednesday, and then NBA content every Thursday. We also do MLB content when that season is running weekly. So if any of that interests you, make sure you get on there, subscribe if you are new, hit the noties to make sure you don't miss whenever we post, because like I said, it's 4 times a week right now. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get right on into the top 40. So we're starting off with a clean slate, and we'll reveal them one by one. And starting off with number 40, I'm going to put Georgia in the top 40. They play Notre Dame in the SEC ACC Men's Challenge, where uh, the SEC just absolutely dominated. I'm pretty sure the ACC only got one win. It was a pretty notable one, Clemson beating Kentucky. But if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that I know the SEC dominated, but I'm pretty sure the ACC only got one win. And Georgia's looking pretty good. They're 8-1. I thought about ranking them last week. Their only loss is to Marquette in a pretty close game. They have a win over St. John's, and I was actually going to put St. John's at 40, but then I remembered there was a team that beat St. John's who was also right on the cusp, so I did give Georgia the slight edge there. Number 39, we got to talk about this. UNC moving down 18 spots. I mean, this is just a ridiculous fall. I don't think anybody expected UNC to be ranked 39 at any point in the season. Right now, they're 5-4. Keep in mind, they barely beat Georgia Tech on Saturday. They won by 3 points. They also had a come from behind 20-point, deficit that they won against Dayton in the Maui Invitational. Um, there's a real chance they lose both those games. They could be sitting at 3-6 right now. So this is a little bit concerning. I will say I'm very concerned for UNC just because of the front court. I mean, I knew this was a concern coming into the season. I gave them the benefit of the doubt just because they had RJ Davis, they had some guys returning, but right now they're ranked 30th overall in KenPom. Um, it's not looking good for the Tar Heels, so I am definitely waving, the alarm bells are sounding a little for me. Now, they could definitely turn it around, but number 38, Penn State. I mean, if I told you preseason Penn State would be ranked ahead of North Carolina in the Power 40, I mean, I don't even know what I would have said. But Penn State, I mean, I didn't think Penn State would ever come near the Power 40 at any point in the season. Right now they're 8-1. They're ranked 33rd in KenPom, so just right behind North Carolina, just right ahead of Georgia and some other notable teams. They're ahead of San Diego State, Wisconsin, Texas, Memphis, Creighton, Oklahoma, Indiana, Arkansas. I mean, all these teams are ranked in the Power 40, so Penn State actually looking pretty solid. I mean, yeah, very surprising. They went out at home, beat Purdue, and yeah, when looking at Penn State moving forward, we always know coming into the year there's going to be teams that come out of nowhere, uh, but this is just crazy to me. Ace Baldwin, having a great season once again. He is looking like a very good player. He's averaging 15 points a game right now, 8 assists, 3 rebounds. Penn State looks really good. Props to them. So I'm going to give them a spot here in the Power 40. I think they deserve it. Number 37, I have Arizona State. Not moving. They're staying put where they're at. And I mean, they're 8-1 right now. They got a huge game against Florida on Saturday, so that'll definitely be one you want to keep your eyes on here coming up this week. When looking at their ranking KenPom wise, they're actually ranked at 50 right now, so a little bit lower, but I will give them some credit. I only have one loss, and yeah, they're looking really solid. They're blowing out pretty much everyone they're playing. Number 36, Missouri, coming into the Power 40. Similar to Penn State, I don't think anybody expected Missouri to get anywhere close top 40 teams in the country this year, but they're 8-1. They just took down Kansas handedly. They won by 9 points. They were winning by more in that game. Missouri's only loss is the first game of the season on the road against Memphis, who is also ranked in the Power 40. So you're looking at it that way. They're 1-1 against the Power 40, and they just beat Kansas. So I think Missouri at this point definitely deserves to be in the Power 40. Like I said, only one loss on the season. The Tigers, very surprising team. They're looking really good. They're ranked 49th in KenPom, so right ahead of Arizona State. That's kind of why I placed them ahead, and also just because they have a much better win than Arizona State does. Number 35, a team that also just beat Kansas. Creighton moving up 3. I wanted to move them up higher, but a lot of these teams here in this range kind of just, sat where they're at. So I'll keep Creighton here. I'm still going to be a little bit conservative with this ranking, but they're 7-3. They have the potential to definitely be a top 15 team in the country at some point. Once again this season. Just don't want to get, too overexcited with them. They also did just lose Pop Isaacs for the year, which is a huge blow. So with Creighton, they're only ranked 41st in KenPom as well. I'll keep getting at 35. Definitely a much needed huge win against Kansas. They also this week play Alabama on the road, so that's going to be a very tough game. We'll see what they can do. If they can get a win there, they'll definitely be back into the top 25. Number 34, I have Indiana staying put where they're at this point. They didn't really do much to make me feel the need to move them up or down. They're just kind of sitting here. They're 7-2. They haven't looked all that impressive. I don't know. They were ranked pretty high coming into the season. I'm not all the way out on the Hoosiers yet, but definitely a bit of a slow start. Want to see some more from them. Number 33, I'll keep West Virginia at the same spot as well. The difference with West Virginia, they actually beat Gonzaga. Now, I know they lost to Louisville, they lost to Pitt, but those are two solid teams. They also beat Arizona. They're 6-2 right now. I don't know. I feel like them and Indiana are kind of similar, so I'll keep them where they were at last week. Number 32, I have Pitt moving down 14 spots, and you could say this is a little bit too harsh, and I would understand that. When looking at Pitt, though, they're 8-2. Those two losses are to solid teams, Wisconsin and Mississippi State. Although I will say, watching that Mississippi State game may have made me drop them a little too far, a little bit of an over-exaggeration. But they lost by 33 points to a team that I didn't have in the Power 40 last week. Now, this week I definitely do. And I will say last week they were on the cusp. But, 8-2, they have some decent wins. They beat LSU. They beat West Virginia. They beat Ohio State in overtime, but Ohio State's out of the Power 40 now. So besides West Virginia, that's their only Power 40 win up to this point. They really won't get a chance to pick up any more until ACC plays. So with Pitt, I don't know. I kind of wanted to see them win that game. And now the Wisconsin loss looks worse because Wisconsin looks worse. The Ohio State win looks worse. The LSU win looks worse. So a lot of their resume took a hit, so I will have to drop them a decent amount. But I'm not, I still think Pitt could definitely be a tournament team. Number 31, Dayton, similar with Indiana and IU. I'm just kind of keeping them where they're at. Didn't really do much this past week. They beat Western Michigan and Lehigh. This Saturday, they have a home game against Marquette, so they're going to definitely have a chance to shoot up these rankings or, drop a good amount. So Dayton, definitely an interesting team, definitely a team I'm keeping my eyes on. They're at 31. Number 30, I have Maryland. Let's talk about Maryland because Maryland had a huge week this week. They went out and blew out Ohio State by 24 points, a team that I was very high on. I had them ranked 25th last week. Now they're outside of the Power 40, but that was a very impressive win. They were winning by 40 points, I'm pretty sure, in the first half at some point. And then on Sunday, they go into Mackey Arena, play Purdue. They only lose by 5 points. This is kind of one of those things where, I mean, I didn't expect Maryland to be much this year, but the fact that they not only got a solid win earlier in the week, they went in on the road to a team that I had ranked in the top 10 last week and only lost by 5 points. They looked very competitive, very good in that game, very strong. They're ranked 19th in KenPom as well. They're 8-2, 36th in offense, all the way up at 13th in defense. Their only other loss is a 4-point loss to Marquette, in which they very well could have won that game. So they have two losses against very good teams, both top 15 teams, one of them top 5, by 4 and 5 points. So Maryland definitely going to be an intriguing team moving forward. They're all the way up at 30. Number 29, Mississippi State, another high flyer. They went out and absolutely dominated Pitt. I already kind of touched on this a little bit. They're 8-1. Only loss is to Butler, which isn't a great loss, but like I said, they did just go out and blow out Pitt. And Mississippi State has been receiving votes in the AP poll for a while. They're actually ranked 25th in the AP poll. Mississippi State looks pretty solid. Number 28, I have Arkansas moving up 2 spots. And when looking at Arkansas, kind of a disappointing start. I mean, this was a team that a lot of people were very excited about coming into the season, myself included. They went out on the road to Miami and almost lost to a Miami team who I ranked in the Power 40 week 1. Now they're sitting at 3-6. So Miami's the team you don't want to lose to. Tomorrow, Arkansas plays Michigan, so they're going to have a chance. If they win that game, they'll be back into the top 25 next week. I can tell you that right now. I don't know. They got Boogie Fland. They pretty much have a lot of Kentucky's team from last year, who was very solid. I think Arkansas will get better as the year goes on, but as of right now, I'm kind of holding back on their ranking a little bit. They're all the way down at 45th in KenPom as well. They really got to fix up their offense. The defense looks really good, which is weird because Kentucky last year was all offense. This year, it's the opposite. I mean, Calipari. I don't know if Coach Cal's really all that great of a coach. That's definitely a hot take. He's a good coach. But I don't know if we should be considering him as, an elite, top 5 coach, top 10. I don't know. Maybe that's probably a hot take. That's just my opinion. I mean, he just year after year he gets all this talent and he doesn't do much with it. That's really on coaching. So, didn't mean to hate on Arkansas whatsoever. I mean, if they go out and beat Michigan, they'll be in the top 25, like I said, next week. Number 27. Illinois, moving down 10 spots. They went out and lost in overtime on the road against Northwestern to open up Big Ten play. That's not a bad loss. I mean, it's obviously one where they should have won, but it's a road game, in-state rival. This week, Illinois has a huge week. They have a home game against Wisconsin and then a home game against Tennessee, who is ranked number 1 in the AP poll. Illinois' got a huge 2-game stretch here this week. I think if you're Illinois, you got to split them. If you can win both, great. But obviously, you want to get a split. If they lose both, I'm not going to, freak out. These are 2 teams ranked inside the top 25. Like I mentioned, one of them is ranked number 1 in the country right now. So if they lose both, they probably won't drop out of the top 40. But they definitely will be near the back end. With Illinois, I don't know. I really don't know what to think about Illinois right now. Moving on over to number 26, it's going to be the Memphis Tigers, dropping down 11 spots. Now, with Memphis, I'm still somewhat of a believer. I mean, The Missouri win looks a lot better. That was their first game of the year. They also beat UConn and Michigan State. Those two wins continue to look better and better. Their only other loss is to Auburn, but they did suffer a home loss to Arkansas State. That is a quad 4 loss. That is just a resume killer if you're trying to get an at-large bid in the tournament. Now, I know that's a ways away, but it is something to consider. Now, Arkansas State was considered to be the best team in the Sun Belt coming into the year, which I guess could be promising. That maybe could bump up to a quad 3 loss, but right now it's a quad 4 loss. That's a huge blow. I mean, they were riding a huge high. They were, I believe, inside the top 15 in my rankings last week. Yeah, they were ranked 15th last week. Now this week, they have a chance to bounce back. If they go on the road against Clemson, who is ranked in the top 25 at the AP poll, and I'll spoil this, they're ranked inside the top 25 of my rankings as well. If they go out and beat Clemson, then this kind of, cancels each other out. They also, their December schedule going forward is kind of hard. They play at Clemson, then at Virginia, home against Mississippi State, and home against Ole Miss. 3 of those 4 teams are ranked in the Power 40 for me. So Memphis definitely has a chance to make up for that terrible loss. But I will say that you do got to drop them quite a bit. That is an unacceptable loss. You can't be losing that game. And it's not like it was, a buzzer beater. They lost by 13. I mean, and at home. It's about as bad of a loss as you can get. Moving on, though, to the top 25. And we'll start it off with Baylor. I'm going to keep them inside the top 25. With Baylor, I know they're 5-3, but they have a 4-point loss to UConn. They didn't look bad in that game. They didn't look great. I don't know. I mean, a 4-point loss to UConn. How does that drop you? I mean, they were ranked 17th last week in the AP poll. Sorry, they were ranked 15th last week in the AP poll. A 4-point loss to UConn drops them all the way out. So drops them 11 spots at least. I don't know how you can drop them outside of the top 25. They still have a win over Arkansas. They still have a win over St. John's. Their only losses are to Gonzaga, who is a top 10 team, Tennessee, who is the number 1 team right now, and UConn, who is a top 20 team as well. So I'm not out on the Bears. Yes, it's tough to lose 3 games. But their next 4 games are pretty much cupcakes. They will enter Big 12 play with likely a 9-3 record. I think the Bears will be fine. They have a lot of talent still. They're ranked 23rd in KenPom as well. If they can figure out the defensive side of things a little bit more, I think they'll be a much better because the offense looks great. Number 24, San Diego State, staying where they're at. I mean, with San Diego State, there's not much to talk about here. They won this past week, I believe. Their defense, once again, looks very strong. I mean, yeah, the Aztecs are always a great team, so they stay put where they're at. Number 23, Cincinnati, moving down 7 spots. Cincinnati was a team everybody was so excited about. I was a little bit lower on them than everyone else. They go out and lose to Villanova, who was a team some people were excited about coming into the season, but Villanova is 6-4. I mean, Villanova lost to Columbia. Villanova lost to St. Joseph's. Villanova lost to Virginia. I mean, I don't know. Villanova, they just don't look good. This is not a good loss. Now, I'll give them some credit. This is their first loss of the season. They have some tough games coming up. They play home against Xavier this week, who is, not in my Power 40, but they were pretty much the entire year. They're right outside right now. They're 7-2, so they're a solid team. The following week, they have a game at Dayton. They also close out December with a game on the road against Kansas State. So Cincinnati definitely has some opportunities to pick up some good wins here, but right now, they definitely do have to drop after that loss. UCLA coming out of the depths. I mean, UCLA, I considered dropping them out of the Power 40 last week. Not sure why. I mean, they're 8-1. This week they beat Washington, and then they went out on the road against Oregon and won by 2. Great game. They got the job done, and this is kind of the UCLA team that I more imagined coming into the season. They lost to New Mexico, second game of the season, but since then they've been lights out. They've been blowing out every team, and they just went on the road against Oregon and picked up a huge win, handing Oregon their first loss of the season. That's always nice. This week they play on the road against Arizona. Don't overlook that game. Arizona's a team that I had ranked inside the top 10 in the preseason rankings. Don't overlook that game. UCLA's got some tough games coming up. They got at Arizona, then they got a home game against Prairie View. But then they got at UNC, or sorry, no, this is a neutral site game against UNC, I believe. And then they play another neutral site game against Gonzaga. So, UCLA's got a tough, non-conference schedule to finish out their non-conference slate. But as of right now, they're a top 25 team for sure. They looked really good in that Oregon game. Number 21, Clemson. Welcome back to the Power 40. They were in it for a while. They dropped out the past, 2-3 weeks. Now they're back in after a huge home win against Kentucky. They went 70-66. It was a great game. They get the job done. This week they play home against Memphis, so they have a chance to pick up another huge win. With Clemson, they lost pretty much their entire team from last year who made the Elite Eight, was it? They're ranked 18th in KenPom right now, 39th in offense, 5th in defense. So the Tigers' defense looking very strong. Clemson looks like a dangerous team. I got them at 21. You could argue they should be higher. Number 20, Wisconsin, moving down 11 spots. Now, they went out and had a bit of a rough week. After starting off 8-0, they dropped 2 games this week. One against Michigan by 3. It was a home game. But Michigan was a team that I had ranked, I believe, 27th, sounds about right, last week. Then they go on the road against Marquette. They did lose by 14, but I'll give them some slack. Marquette looks like a dangerous team, and on the road, that's a tough task. Wisconsin's still, I believe, a top 25 team. I think they're still, worthy of that. I'm not sure how to say this guy's name. Is it John Tanji? I'm not sure, but he's averaging 22 points a game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He looks like an absolute ridiculous scorer for them. He's kind of their new AJ Storr type guy, I guess. But with Wisconsin, the offense looks really good. It's really the defense I worry about for them. So yeah, they had a bit of a rough week. Number 19, Oklahoma, moving up 10 spots. I still feel like I'm lower on Oklahoma than most. They're 42nd in KenPom. I don't know how you can get excited about them. The reason they're jumping up this high is there's only a few undefeateds left, so I feel like I gotta give them credit. They are winning. Next week they play Michigan, so that'll definitely be interesting. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost, but they are undefeated, so I'll give them some credit. Number 18, I've got Ole Miss moving up 5 spots. Ole Miss looks very strong. They beat Louisville by 23 points. Louisville was a team that I had ranked in the Power 40 last week. Then they went out and beat Lindenwood by 33. They're blowing out teams. They're 8-1, and their only loss is a 2-point loss to Purdue. So with Ole Miss, I'm pretty confident about them moving forward. They got a pretty weak non-conference schedule the rest of the way. They do play at Memphis, though, to cap it off, so that'll be a tough one. But Ole Miss looks pretty strong. Really, the SEC in general looks like an absolute force. Number 17, UConn, moving up 10 spots after a much-needed, huge week for the Huskies. They go out and beat Baylor by 4 and then go on the road against Texas and win by 11 points. By the way, they were without Alex Karaban against Baylor, who is their leading scorer, who is their best player. He might have missed against Texas as well. I'm not sure. But those are two teams I had ranked in the Power 40 last week. So those are two great wins, much needed. Like I said, UConn back in the top 25, all the way up at 17. Definitely back in on the Huskies. I was sounding the alarm bell. I'm still worried about this defense for them. They're ranked 93rd in KenPom, third in offense, which is great, but the defense is definitely holding them back right now. So we'll see if they can figure that out. I think UConn is one of those teams that will get better as the year goes on. They're bringing in a lot of they're not bringing in a lot of guys, but they're bringing up a lot of guys, having a lot of their young role players step into starting in major roles for this team. So I think UConn, as the season goes on, will get more and more comfortable. Right now they're sitting at 17 though. 16 Texas A&M had a pretty solid week here. They're at 24th in KenPom right now. Just outside the top 10 in defense, just outside the top 40 in offense. Texas A&M looks pretty solid. They're 8-2. This week they had a huge week. They beat Wake Forest by 13 and Texas Tech by 5. Two pretty solid wins. This week they go to Purdue to play a Boilermakers team who is also 8-2. So that'll be a huge matchup, two ranked teams. I don't believe it's in Mackey, but it is in Indiana, so it's essentially a home game for Purdue. I'll definitely keep my eyes on that game. No college football this week, so we're gonna have plenty of time to focus on college basketball. So that's always great to see. Number 15, Michigan, moving up 13 spots. Don't love to see this as an Ohio State fan, but I gotta give them credit. I mean, they went out and beat Wisconsin on the road by 3 and then beat Iowa. Two very solid wins. They play Arkansas this week tomorrow, actually. If they win that game, they're going to continue to move up. They also play Oklahoma next week. Again, if they win that game, they're going to continue to move up. Michigan, I was pretty high on them coming into the season. They brought in Dusty May. But, man, Vlad Golden looks very good for them at center. They got a team. They got a lot of guys. I mean, Roddy Gale Jr., Trey Donaldson. This Michigan team looks pretty scary. I wouldn't want to play them right now. They're playing really good. Dusty May's got them in a great position. Yeah, they're one of the biggest risers of this week. Number 14, Michigan State, their arch rival. I do have ahead of them still. Michigan actually does have the better record, but Michigan State at 8-2. Michigan State's only losses are to Kansas and Memphis. They also have a win over UNC. You could argue these two should be switched, but I didn't feel like I needed to jump Michigan ahead of them. I already had Michigan jumping plenty of teams. I'll keep Michigan State ahead of them for now, but if Michigan continues to beat, I mean, like I said, if they beat Arkansas, you could argue they should be ahead. Especially if they go out and beat an undefeated Oklahoma team right now. But yeah, Michigan State looks really solid. Again, I kind of want to see them get their guy. It's kind of a committee thing right now for them. Yeah, but these two teams, 14-15, you could argue either way. Funny enough, in KenPom, Michigan's ranked 21st, Michigan State's ranked 22nd. So they're neck and neck there as well. Michigan at 43rd in offense, 10th in defense. Michigan State at 31st in offense, but 20th in defense. So I'll side with a little bit more well-rounded team as of right now, at least in efficiency-wise. Number 13, Houston, moving up 6 spots. A lot of teams lost this week. A lot of teams got upset. So Houston, pretty big riser this week. They're back inside the top 15. I feel like off to a bit of a shaky start. 3 very early losses. Keep in mind, these losses were a 5-point loss to Auburn, a 5-point loss in overtime to Alabama, and a 3-point loss in overtime to San Diego State. So definitely, unfortunate to see them have 3 early losses. And Houston is yet to get a good win, so maybe I have them a little bit too high. You could argue that. But I don't know. I might have to move them down next week if we see some of these teams behind them, like Michigan State, Michigan, Texas A&M, UConn, continue to pick up solid wins. We'll see, though. Number 12, Purdue, moving down 4 spots. Like I said, they did lose to Penn State, but they picked up a nice bounce-back win against Maryland, and they're going to have a chance to beat Texas A&M this week. And what I said is essentially a home game for them, but technically it's a neutral site game. But 12 or 16 should be a very fun matchup. Braden Smith looks to be a very solid player. Trey Kaufman-Renn averaging 19 points a game right now. He's really stepped up in a big way for them, and they've needed it. So the Boilermakers, I'm not too worried. I know they lost to Penn State, yes, but again, I'm not too worried. I think they are still, at least at this point, the best team in the Big Ten. But you got teams like Michigan, Michigan State creeping up on them. They're right there. Same with, Wisconsin, UCLA not far off as well. Yes, but as of right now, I do think Purdue is the best team in the Big Ten. I guess I'm contradicting myself a little bit. To be honest, I forgot about Oregon. I thought, I forget Oregon's in the Big Ten, even with football still. I don't know. You could argue Purdue. These two teams are really close right now. Right now, I have Oregon ahead of them. They're 9-1. Their only losses to UCLA by 2. But they have a win over A&M. They have a win over San Diego State. They have a win over Alabama. With Oregon, I'm not too worried. They were eventually going to lose one. They weren't going to go undefeated. They're ranked 20th in KenPom right now. 20th in offense, 26th in defense. With Oregon, I didn't even drop them for losing that game. To be honest, they probably should have been higher last week. So I think 11's fair for them. Moving on in, though, to the top 10. Kicking off the top 10, it's going to be Florida. They're one of the few undefeateds left, so I'm going to give them some respect. They haven't had a struggle game yet, which is kind of crazy. They haven't played anyone. But I will say, what's their closest game? Is it 13 to Florida State? I think that might be their closest win. That is. They're 9-0. This week they play Arizona State, who I've ranked inside the Power 40, so that is a chance to pick up a huge win. And then the following week they play UNC, so they're going to have 2 games here, one this week, one next week, to pick up 2 very much, very strong wins. I'll say Walter Clayton looks very good for them. Florida, with all the coaching drama, they're just steamrolling teams. Good on the Gators. Like I said, one of the few undefeateds left, and they look really strong. Number 9, I have Gonzaga. They did just lose in overtime to Kentucky by 1 point, but they're 7-2. They have wins over Indiana, San Diego State, Arizona State, Baylor. Only losses to West Virginia in overtime. They haven't lost a game in regulation yet. Their 2 losses have been in overtime. And one of them is to Kentucky. It looks very strong. They play UConn in what is a neutral site game, but sort of a road game for them this Saturday. That'll definitely be interesting. I want to see how they play there. I'm not too concerned about Gonzaga, though, losing that game. As you can see, I even moved them up. They're ranked second in offense right now. Like I said, I'm not too worried about the Zags here. Number 8, Kansas, moving down 7 spots. They're ranked 11th in KenPom, 24th in offense, 8th in defense. Their computer metrics aren't very good. Now, you look at the eye test. Before last week, they did look like, at least to me, you could argue Auburn. They did look like either the best or the second best team in the country. I had them ranked number 1. But this week, they lose on the road against Creighton, and they lose on the road against Missouri. Now, the Missouri game was a rivalry game. The Creighton game, Creighton was needing a win. Creighton was kind of drifting. They were about to, ruin their season if they took, a couple more losses. So I'll give them the excuse there. Creighton was a team that I was very high on coming into the season. They have a lot of talent there. The Missouri game was a rivalry game on the road. I don't know. I feel like I'm giving them some slack. But yeah, 2 losses in the same week definitely hurts, especially as the number 1 team. The AP poll has them at 10. I didn't drop them that far. But yeah, You could argue they should be behind Gonzaga. I wouldn't blame you, but you look at Kansas, they have a win over UNC, win over Michigan State, win over Duke. I mean, they have some really good wins. Number 7, Alabama moving up 5. They're going to, I have a feeling Alabama taking a few early losses. They're 7-2 though. I think with this schedule, if you're an Alabama fan, 7-2 you're happy with. I mean, they play Purdue and lose, but they beat Illinois, they beat Houston, they beat Rutgers. They did lose to Oregon by 2, but they beat UNC. This week they play Creighton, who like I said just beat Kansas. So we'll see what they do there. And then they get a little bit of a easy, stretch, 3-game stretch before SEC play. And we talked about how dominant the SEC looks this year in basketball. So Alabama's, I think you could argue, is going to have possibly the toughest schedule in all of college basketball this year. They're already ranked 4th in terms of strength of schedule, and they haven't even gotten into conference play in the best conference in the country, at least this year. Alabama at 7. I'm good with that there. Duke at 6. Cooper Flagg looks really solid. Con Canepa looks really solid. They're ranked 3rd in KenPom right now. 1st in defense, by the way. The defense is just absurd. They're ranked 12th in offense. With a young team like this, you typically don't see the defense be this polished. It is ridiculous. They went out and beat Auburn at home. I said there was a good chance they could do that. And Auburn, last week I said, you could argue has looked like the best team in the country. And you could still argue that. Duke picks up a huge win. They also beat Louisville on the road, who was ranked in the Power 40 last week. With Duke, they're looking like by far the best team in the ACC. The ACC has really crumbled. I mean, UNC doesn't look very good. Wake Forest was a team I was high on, doesn't look very good. Now Clemson has stepped it up. Pitt has stepped it up. You could argue Louisville even. But yeah, the ACC looks really weak. With Duke, I worry if that'll affect them. I don't think so. I mean, they had a really tough non-conference schedule. They got some good wins. So you worry, with the fact that the ACC is so weak, will that affect their seeding? Probably not. I think there's a good chance Duke could end up as a 1 seed by the end of the year. But we'll see. They look very good right now. Kentucky, I'll have ahead of them right now at 5. Yes, they did lose to Clemson on the road, but I think they made up for it. Essentially a road game against Gonzaga where they won. I think that's fair to say that they made up for that Clemson loss. So I move them up 1. I thought about putting Duke ahead of them, but Kentucky did beat Duke, so it's kind of hard for me to justify that. Kentucky's ranked 10th in KenPom right now, 10th in offense, 24th in defense. Kentucky looks really good. Credit to Mark Pope. I mean, nobody expected Kentucky to be anywhere near the top 5 this year. Otega Owe looks really good. Lamont Butler, he has been injured, but he looks solid when he's played. Jackson Robinson, Kirk Carissa has been a key piece for them. He hasn't done much, scoring wise, but he seems to play a lot of minutes. But yeah, impressive what Mark Pope's been able to do. That was a huge win against Gonzaga. Credit to him. They're ranked 5th right now for me. 4th, I have Marquette moving up 1 spot. Marquette looks just amazing. Shaka Smart's got another elite team. They lose to Iowa State on the road, but they made up for it, kind of similar with Kentucky. They made up for it with a 14-point win against Wisconsin. This week they play at Dayton, so they have a chance to pick up another pretty good win. Cam Jones looks absolutely amazing, 20 points a game, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. I'm kind of rounding up for him there. David Joplin looks really good as well, 15 points per game there. Marquette's looking like a complete, solid, well-built team. They're ranked 9th in KenPom right now, top 15 in both offense and defense. They look elite. Speaking of elite, Iowa State's going to stay right now at 3. They're ranked 6th in KenPom, 6th in offense, 9th in defense. I believe one of 2 teams to be ranked inside the top 10 in both offense and defense. With Iowa State, I think they have a good problem where who is their best player? I mean, I said that was a negative for Michigan State, but this is a good thing for Iowa State. I would argue it's Keyshawn Gilbert. He's averaging 17 a game. But you also got Curtis Jones, who's averaging 16. You also got Tamin Lipsey, who is only averaging 9, but defensively he is, there, and one of the best defenders in the league, as well as he is kind of the leader of the team. He was there last season when they went on their 2 seed, run where they made it to the Sweet 16. He was their best player last year. Yeah, Iowa State looks dominant. Like I said, they beat a Marquette team who I have at fourth right now by 11 points. I mean, that is ridiculous. Their only loss is a 2-point loss to Auburn, by the way. Um, yeah, Iowa State, the Cyclones look just amazing. Watch out, they play Iowa this week. That's a rivalry game. I could see them losing. I don't know though. I still think they win. I mean, just the way they're playing right now. Keyshawn Gilbert's been absolutely amazing for them. Number 2, I have Auburn. I thought about moving them to 1, but I don't know if I could do that. They're 8-1. I mean, yes, their only loss is on the road against Duke, and they have wins over Iowa State, UNC, Memphis, Houston. This week they play Ohio State. I'm hoping Ohio State can go out and win. That would be a huge win for us. I don't think they will. Auburn's looking you can argue. I've been saying this. Auburn's looked like the best team in the country so far. They're ranked first in KenPom, first in offense, 23rd in defense. But the team I do have at number 1 is going to be Tennessee. They're one of the few undefeateds left, so I feel like I got to give them respect. They're 8-0, ranked 9th in offense, 2nd in defense. Like I said, there's only 2 teams that are top 10 in both offense and defense. Tennessee is one of them, so the computers like them. They have a 26-point win over Syracuse that they picked up this week, a 15-point win over Baylor, a 22-point win over Louisville. They've just been steamrolling everyone. I want to see Tennessee play, an elite team. They play at Illinois on Saturday. That's not an elite team, but that is a good team. So they're going to have a chance to pick up another solid win. But yeah, as of this point, they're one of the few undefeateds left, and they've been in the top 10 for quite some time. I think they are deserving of the number 1 spot right now. Chaz Lanier, I believe that's how you say it, 19 points a game. Zakai Ziegler, 12 points a game. I thought this team would take a step back after losing Dalton Knecht. It's almost as if they've taken a step forward. I mean, they were a 2 seed last year. Right now, at least based off the rankings, they'd be the number 1 overall seed. I don't know if you would say that because it is based off resume, the tournament seeding. But they're ranked number 1 in the country, so it's ridiculous what the Volunteers have done. Props to them for that. Definitely an impressive season to start. We'll see if they can keep it up. But that is going to do it for the Week 6 College Basketball Power 40 rankings. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you go down there and leave a like. Comment down below what you agree, what you disagree. Who did I forget about? Would you like to see ranked in the Power 40? Who did I have too high? Who did I have too low? Love to debate down there. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe. Like I said, college basketball videos every Monday, college football every Tuesday, NFL every Wednesday, NBA every Thursday, as well as MLB content when that season is rolling. If any of that interests you, make sure you subscribe. Links in the description, as always, X, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. Make sure you follow those, join those. Check out the most recent videos popping up right now. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with our college football final rankings reaction, and we're going to take a look at the bracket. Not going to be our predictions quite yet, but we're going to make sure to have a video reacting to the rankings. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Thank you so much for watching.